Good evening, Internet. There comes a moment in every biker's life when something dawns on you. It doesn't arrive dramatically. There's no warning siren, no flashing lights. Just a quiet realisation that something has changed. You swing a leg over the bike, and halfway through the manoeuvre your hip produces a sound like someone stepping on a packet of crisps. You freeze. You look around quickly. Did anyone hear that apart from you? Because if there's one thing more embarrassing than dropping your bike in the driveway, it's losing a fight with your own joints while mounting the bike, as you secretly plan to buy a stepladder from Amazon. But the truth is, if you ride long enough, time eventually catches up with all of us. Our bodies change. Our reactions change, our eyesight changes, even our taste in motorcycles change. But here's the interesting thing. While some things decline with age, other things actually improve. Experience, awareness, judgment, and perhaps most importantly, your ability to spot danger long before it becomes a problem. So today we're going to talk about what really happens as we get older as motorcyclists, the challenges that come with it, and why growing older doesn't necessarily mean becoming a worse rider. In fact, in many ways, it can make you a far better one. Let's start with the obvious one, your body. Because when you're in your 20s, your body treats motorcycling like a casual hobby. You jump on the bike, ride all day, climb off at the end of the ride feeling absolutely fine, maybe a little tired, but nothing serious. Fast forward a few decades though, and suddenly your body begins negotiating terms. You swing a leg over the bike, and your knee quietly whispers, "Right, we're doing this again, are we?" Adventure bikes are particularly entertaining at this stage of life. They sit somewhere around chest height, loaded with crash bars, luggage racks, and enough aluminium to build a small aircraft. Mounting one requires flexibility normally seen in Olympic gymnasts, and if you happen to be wearing bulky riding gear and stiff boots, it can feel like attempting a gymnastic routine while dressed as a medieval knight. Of course you'll still do it, but you might do it slightly slower, and possibly while pretending you meant to stretch first. And then there's the knees. Because motorcycling involves a lot more knee bending than people realise, your legs are tucked up, your hips are angled, your knees are gripping the tank, which is all perfectly fine, until you get off the bike. You pull up at a cafe after 2 hours in the saddle, you put the side stand down, you swing your leg off the bike. And as you walk towards the door, something strange happens. Your legs have temporarily forgotten how to operate in anything other than cowboy mode. So you stretch, you straighten your back, and inevitably you make that noise. You know the one. That involuntary grunt that escapes whenever someone over the age of 40 stands up too quickly. It's not pain exactly. It's more like your body saying, "Okay, we'll allow this riding nonsense, but we'll be sending you the bill later." One thing people often bring up when discussing older riders is reaction time. And technically speaking, yes, reaction speeds slow slightly with age. A younger rider may react a fraction faster to sudden events. But here's what people often overlook. Older riders usually see the problem coming earlier. They've ridden thousands of miles. They've seen every type of road hazard imaginable. Cars pulling out, gravelling corners, oil spills, farm tractors appearing where tractors absolutely should not be. And that experience changes how you ride. Instead of reacting at the last second, you anticipate. You notice the driver creeping towards the junction. You see the van drifting across lanes. You spot the diesel patch before leaning into the corner. So while reaction time might decline slightly, hazard awareness improves dramatically, and that makes experienced riders incredibly difficult to surprise. Another thing that quietly changes with age is eyesight. Now this is a sensitive topic, because most riders will insist their vision is absolutely perfect, right up until the moment they hold a menu half a metre away from their face while squinting in a suspicious manner. Eyesight does change. Night riding becomes more challenging. Headlights from oncoming cars seem brighter. Rain at night turns the road into a glittering mess of reflections, and suddenly riding in the dark becomes less enjoyable. Many experienced riders simply adapt. They ride more during daylight hours, or they slow down slightly at night, which is perfectly sensible, because if you can't clearly see the road ahead, you're essentially riding into the unknown. And hedges have a nasty habit of appearing exactly where you don't want them to be, and are surprisingly unyielding at 30 miles an hour. Also, as you get older, your taste in motorcycles evolves, and this is one of the funniest changes riders experience. When you first get into motorcycling, you want something fast, something aggressive, something that looks like it escaped from a racetrack last week. Low clip-ons, high foot pegs, a riding position that resembles doing press-ups at motorway speeds. Comfort isn't part of the conversation. In fact, discomfort is almost worn like a badge of honour. But after a few decades, your priorities shift. Suddenly, bikes with upright seating looks appealing. Seats that feel like actual seats instead of wooden planks become very attractive. You discover the joy of heated grips, cruise control, windscreens that do actually block wind, motorcycles designed for real roads and real riders, modern classics, touring bikes, big cruisers, machines that allow you to ride for 6 hours without needing physiotherapy afterwards. And you realise something important. Motorcycling is a lot more fun when you're comfortable. When you're younger, the weather is irrelevant. Rain? Doesn't matter. Cold? Add another jumper. Wind? Just lean slightly harder. But as riders get older, something strange happens. You start checking the weather forecast. Not casually, properly. You're looking at wind speed, rain probability, temperature, visibility. And if the forecast says heavy rain and gale force winds, you simply say, you know what, today might be a tea and biscuits day instead. Which again, is sensible. Motorcycling should be enjoyable, not a survival exercise. Here's another reality of ageing riders. Motorcycles don't get any lighter. In fact, modern bikes often seem determined to gain weight every year. And picking up a drop bike becomes, well, interesting, especially if it's fully loaded. You drop it in a car park and suddenly you're performing a complicated manoeuvre involving leverage, determination and mild panic. Strangers may appear, sometimes out of nowhere, sometimes helpful, sometimes offering commentary. But the important thing is this: older riders become much more careful at slow speeds, because gravity is still undefeated, and your core strength is a lot less than it was. Motorcycles are surprisingly heavy once they decide to have a lie down. One of the biggest improvements older riders experience is smoothness. You stop riding aggressively. You stop trying to prove anything. Instead, you focus on flow. Smooth throttle control, precise braking, clean corner lines. And when you ride this way, something interesting happens. You become faster without trying to be, because smooth riding is efficient riding, and efficient riding is safe riding. Experience is the single greatest advantage older riders have. Years of riding builds instincts that can't be taught quickly. You learn how traffic behaves. You learn how weather affects grip. You learn how roads change throughout the seasons. These things become automatic. You position yourself better. You leave bigger escape routes. You read the road ahead. And that kind of awareness is incredibly valuable. Here's something you'll notice about many experienced riders. They enjoy riding more than ever because they are not in a rush. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're simply enjoying the ride. The scenery, the quiet focus inside the helmet, the sound of the engine. Motorcycling becomes less about adrenaline and more about experience. And that's where the real magic is. Getting older changes many things. Your body complains more. Your reflexes slow. Your taste in motorcycles evolves. But the joy of riding remains exactly the same. That feeling when the road opens up ahead of you and the world rushing past. And if you adapt, ride within your limits and stay aware, there's absolutely no reason you can't keep riding for another decade or two. Because motorcycling doesn't belong to the young. It belongs to anyone who loves the road. So whether you're 20, 40, 60 or beyond, keep learning, keep adapting, and most importantly, keep riding. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like and subscribe. It helps me a great deal. And keep the rubber on the road. And I'll see you in the next one.